When you think about it, the relationship between a parent and a child should be built on love and care, right? It's supposed to be the one place in the world where a kid feels totally safe. But what happens when that very foundation gets cracked by words? The same words that are meant to build a child up.
And this is not some small, niche problem. A report from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services found that in a single year, over 50,000 children were officially listed as victims of emotional abuse. And here's the thing, that's just the cases that actually get reported. Words don't leave bruises you can see, but believe me, their impact can last a whole lifetime.
Okay, so let's really get into it. How can simple words, things that are maybe said without even a second thought, leave such deep and permanent psychological wounds? That's the big question we're tackling today. We're going to look at the kinds of phrases that can seriously define a childhood and shape the adult that child becomes. So here's how we'll break it all down. First, we'll talk about how certain words are a direct attack on a child's self-worth. Then we'll see how they plant seeds of fear and insecurity. After that, we'll look at how trust just gets completely eroded. And finally, we'll tie it all together and talk about why this stuff matters so much in the long run.
All right, first up, attacks on self-worth. These are the verbal punches that go straight for a child's identity, making them question their own value from the inside out.
It often starts with comments about appearance, and phrases like these, they aren't just mean insults. To a kid who looks to their parent for acceptance, these are judgments that they internalize as just undeniable facts about who they are. Their brain is literally wired to take these words as the absolute truth.
And the fallout from this? It's severe. This kind of talk is a direct pipeline to physical insecurity, to major body image issues, and sometimes it can even spiral into serious conditions like eating disorders. So instead of learning to love themselves, they're taught to pick apart their own reflection.
Next up, we've got the attacks on a child's natural behavior. A sarcastic question like, "Why do you walk like that?" Or, "Why are you so weird?" That's not a real question, is it? It's a statement. It's telling a child that the very way they exist in the world is just wrong.
And this creates this deep, nagging fear of being judged. The kid learns that just being themselves is risky. And that fear can trap them in social anxiety way into adulthood because they're always worried that other people will see the same flaws their parents pointed out.
Now, you'd think comparing your kid to someone else would be motivating, right? Well, it turns out it does the exact opposite. Saying, "Why can't you be more like your brother?" doesn't inspire them, it just breeds resentment. And telling them that other kids are better than them, that doesn't make them try harder. It just teaches them that no matter what they do, they'll never, ever be good enough. And then you have these absolute statements. You're stupid. You're useless. These words are just devastating because they leave zero room for hope. They're basically a final verdict on a child's entire future, handed down by the most important person in their world.
And that leads us right into our second big topic, creating fear and insecurity. Now we're going to look at the phrases that make a child's world feel completely unstable and totally unsafe.
Wow, I mean, there are very few things you can say that are more damaging than this. When you tell a child you regret their very existence, you're attacking their fundamental right to just be here. You're making them feel like a mistake. The damage here is just catastrophic. It can completely demolish a child's sense of identity. It can convince them that they don't even deserve to be alive, which is a direct path to depression and even self-harm. A parent is supposed to make a child feel precious, not erasable.
So this tactic, it basically frames the child as a problem that needs to be managed. By blaming them for money problems or for being tired, a parent turns them from a child who needs nurturing into a burden that just has to be carried. And the result of this is really crucial. The child learns to make themselves invisible. They start hiding what they need, what they feel, just to avoid causing more trouble. And this has long-term consequences. In fact, research from the Children's Health System Nemours has actually linked this kind of emotional neglect to kids acting out in other ways, like stealing. And then there's the ultimate weapon, the threat of abandonment. For a child, a parent is everything, their whole world. Threatening to leave them, that's taking their deepest, most primal fear and turning it into a weapon.
This kind of threat writes a devastating script in their mind. The people you love will always leave you. And that fear becomes this unconscious blueprint for all their future relationships, making it incredibly hard to ever trust partners or friends as an adult.
Which brings us to our final theme for today, the corrosion of trust. This is all about how a really common parental habit can, bit by bit, teach a child that words, well, they don't mean anything at all.
And really, it's a simple destructive formula. You know the one. If you're good, I'll buy you that toy. A parent makes a promise, then doesn't keep it. And the cycle repeats. It might seem like a small thing each time, but every single broken promise is another crack in that foundation of trust.
And that right there is the key. That really hits home, doesn't it? A child's love for their parent is amazingly resilient, but their trust? Not so much. Broken promises teach a kid that words can't be relied on, and, by extension, neither can the people who say them.
So, let's pull all of this together. Why does it matter so much? Because these moments, these words, they aren't just memories that fade away. They are the actual building blocks of our personalities, our behaviors, our beliefs. Think about it. The way we're spoken to as kids becomes our inner voice when we're adults. These words don't just describe us. In a very real way, they construct us. They lay the entire groundwork for our self-esteem, for our relationships, and for how we see our place in the world.
Ultimately, childhood is the chapter that sets the stage for the rest of our lives. The words we hear during that time have the incredible power to either build us up or tear us down. And that leaves all of us with a really important question to think about. Knowing just how deeply we're all shaped by our beginnings, how do we make sure we shape a better one for the next generation?